Malaysia and other Asian nations commemorated the 10th anniversary of the worst tsunami in history that left more than 200,000 dead and almost 2 million people displaced in the region. The largest commemorations took place in the capital of Indonesia's Aceh province, Banda Aceh, beginning on Thursday night. The city was leveled on December 26, 2004 by a 30-foot tsunami triggered by a 9.15 magnitude earthquake off the Indonesian coast in the Indian Ocean. Close to 500,000 Indonesians packed into Banda Aceh's Bathrim Grand Mosque for the first commemoration service on Thursday night. Worshippers joined in mass prayer to mourn the victims. The mosque is one of the city's few buildings that stood strong against the tsunami. Moving to Colombia, leftist FARC rebels released a Colombian soldier nearly a week after beginning a unilateral ceasefire aimed at ending Latin America's longest-running conflict. Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos hailed the release of Carlos Becerra Ojeda in rural area of southwestern Cauca department as another step in the right direction. The soldier, who had been held since December 19, was handed over to a humanitarian commission, including representatives of the International Committee of the Red Cross, as well as representatives from Cuba and Norway, the guarantor countries of the peace talks that the guerrillas have held with the government in Havana since November 2012.
Well, today the Venezuelan National Assembly has called yet another special parliamentary session in order to continue with its attempts to try and renew the country's principal public authorities, a process which has been once again derailed by the Venezuelan opposition, who yesterday refused to vote on the 12 candidates put forward to take up the position of judge within the country's Supreme Court of Justice, despite the fact that 5 of these candidates were actually put forward by the opposition themselves in previous negotiations with the government. Now, this comes after the opposition also abstained from voting on Monday on candidates set to take up positions within the country's principal citizen and electoral authorities. The Venezuelan government has reiterated that this strategy represents yet another attempt to undermine Venezuela's constitutional and democratic institutions. The Venezuelan National Assembly is set to meet later on today in order to try and resolve this impasse. I'm Rachel Boothroyd reporting for teleSUR from Caracas, Venezuela.
In Mexico, family members of 43 missing students said they will continue pressing for answers over the fate of their sons throughout the holidays. There is no vacation, no Christmas or New Year's. These days are for struggling, said Militon Ortega, father of one of the students. The families are planning additional protests in Mexico City 3 months after the students disappeared in September. The government said last month the young men were killed and their bodies burned by a drug cartel in the southern state of Guerrero. The apparent massacre by a police-backed gang sparked nationwide protests and has caused a severe political crisis for President Enrique Peña Nieto. Italian officials say some 1,250 migrants have been rescued in the Mediterranean over Christmas on 4 separate operations, with 5 bodies recovered by Cypriot and Maltese ships at sea. Italy has been struggling to cope with large increases of African and Middle Eastern migrants trying to cross the Mediterranean to reach Europe. Officials say more than 165,000 people have made the crossing this year, compared to 60,000 last year. The UN Refugee Agency says another 3,400 would-be migrants have died attempting this journey. The number of people evacuated due to Malaysia's worst ever floods jumped to more than 160,000. The number of people jumped from 100,000 the day before. The northeastern peninsula of Malaysia, which is the worst affected part of the country, is regularly hit by flooding during the annual northeast monsoon, but this year's rains have been particularly heavy. Prime Minister Najib Razak cut short a vacation in the US to tour the affected areas. Najib announced an additional $143 million will be spent on aid victims after the flood subsidies, following an initial government allocation of $14 million 2 days ago. And to finish off, participants in Peru's annual Slugfest battled out on Friday in the local Tacanuke fighting tradition aimed at settling old scores and starting the new year afresh. Tacanuke combines the native words take, meaning fight, and nuke, meaning mutual, and is celebrated yearly here in an event that the community members say resolves conflicts and improves relationships. The yearly brawls are held throughout the province of Chimbolavacas and are set against a backdrop of music, drinking, and generally festive atmosphere. All community members, including children, can take part, and those who prefer to just observe can watch fists fly from spectator stands set up beside makeshift fighting rings. Judges and referees are on hand to declare winners and in fights stemming from stolen lovers to financial or legal disputes. The event serves as a form of community justice aimed at quashing conflict between the residents and allowing participants to start the new year in peace.